Greetings from Malaysia. Welcome and selamat datang to the virtual colloquium by the Institute of Teacher Education International Languages Campuses, or better known as IPG-KBA, with the theme Humanizing Teaching and Learning, the Dynamics of Language Education in the Waves of Global Change. I am Norain Wong Abdullah, a lecturer in IPG-KBA, acting as your moderator for today, hosting the second session of the virtual colloquium. This is going to be a very interesting session today, and I hope you will stay tuned to the end of this session because today we have a very special homegrown speaker from one of Malaysia's renowned public universities. Before we start off the session for today, let me lay out a few housekeeping matters. For those who are joining us for the first time and those who are returning from our first session yesterday, please be informed that everyone who attends the webinar series will be given an e-certificate after each session. Therefore, do not forget to register yourself now as the registration link is pinned at the bottom. And make sure you enter with the correct email address. Secondly, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. And if you have any questions for our speaker, please feel free to send it through the chat box. Our speaker will be answering questions at the end of the session. And in instances whereby your questions are not answered, do not worry, for we will be sure to follow up afterwards. At last, we would appreciate if you can share today's webinar with your social networks. Now, let's get up and personal with our speaker for today. And we have with us today Associate Professor Dr. Kaseh Abu Bakar from the Research Center of Arabic Language and Islamic Civilization, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Associate Professor Dr. Kaseh Abu Bakar holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Education from the International Islamic University of Malaysia, reading on the Rush model in testing, after obtaining her Masters of Education in the Foreign Language Education from the University of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And she holds a BA of Honors in Arabic Language and Literature, majoring in Linguistics from the University of Muhammad V of Morocco. Her field of specialization is in applied linguistics, assessment, curriculum, and instruction of Arabic. A long list of credentials indeed, for she is also a practicing interpreter with the Malaysian National Institute of Translation for the Arabic, English, and Malay language, with a couple of international stints as an interpreter at the Prime Minister's Department and United Nations. And she's actively involved in training, trainer, and e-teaching and e-testing of Arabic, a collaboration with the Institute of Oriental Studies, University of Leipzig, Germany. And very pertinent for our session today, ladies and gentlemen, she's currently into innovations in using humanistic design for language proficiency. With this, let's hear from our speaker who will be sharing her insights on humanistic design considerations in developing and assessing language proficiency online. So let us welcome Associate Professor Dr. Kaseh Abu Bakar. Assalamualaikum, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam, and a very good morning to everybody.
Yeah. So right. I hand over the session to you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much. And I wish all our friends and our colleagues at Institute Perguruan Bahasa Antarabangsa, my fellow educationists from Malaysia, from Philippines, and perhaps from other countries as well. So I wish you all a very good day and best wishes in your educational journey. Okay, for us to be able to become good educationists, we ourselves need to educate ourselves in many matters with regards to our personality, our characteristics as teachers, and also in our language pedagogy. Right. So I can share my slides now. Right. Thank you very much. So as you heard, my name is Kaseh Abu Bakar, and I will be sharing with you some slides, not all slides, okay? And they are not very academic. I purposely make them simple so that we can all follow without having to crack our heads, right? So the topic that I have at hand, okay, am I already sharing my screen or not? Norain, is my screen on?
I am not yet going on in a short while, I think. Yes, showing. It is showing. Okay.
Showing? All right. Thank
Yes,
you very
very
much.
good. Yeah.
Okay. So the topic that we have agreed upon is humanistic design considerations in developing and assessing language proficiency. Right. So what I have noticed so far when it comes to language education is that for the past few years, we have some sort of being pushed into uh, adopting or adapting certain trends, certain global trends in the world. Okay, right. So I refer to this as the double tsunami. Not that tsunami is bad. Not that it means bad. I'm just saying that it's just like a huge wave, huge wave uh, coming to the in language education. Okay, so what are these two waves? So why do I call it the double tsunami? All right, the first wave with regards to proficiency movement. Okay, so as we know that for since around 2015, 2016, or 2017 especially, the Malaysian government has been calling upon English language educators as well as the educators of other foreign languages to adopt a proficiency oriented curriculum, and specifically to adopt CEFR, Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. Okay, right. Proficiency oriented curriculum is not really new. Okay, it has been around for ages, and I believe as in 1998. Okay, I think it was in 1998. I presented a paper on bahasa Arab berasaskan tahap kecakapan satu saranan, Arabic based on proficiency levels. Okay, it's a proposal. However, during that time, my colleagues were not ready to understand. They were not ready for this. They were not they couldn't even understand what I was talking about. I think they might be saying, what is Kaseh talking about? What is she saying? We are all teaching language. We have been teaching language. We have been teaching Arabic for ages and for so many years. And now suddenly you come back from America and you're saying that, oh, we should adopt a proficiency-based curriculum. So it was some sort of an right rejection, right? And then I stopped pushing it because I thought the society was not ready. And then in 2017, I received an instruction from the top management of my university to come up with a test, a competency test based on CEFR for Arabic, and also to transform the curriculum towards a more proficiency oriented curriculum. Okay, so this is one wave. And this was not happening only in the tertiary education, but it is also happening in the schools, in primary, elementary schools, secondary schools, as well as the tertiary, right? And it's happening all over the world, okay? So I was not trained in CEFR specifically, but I was trained in the American proficiency guidelines, American Council of the Teaching of Foreign Languages proficiency guidelines. However, once you know one particular guideline, it is very easy for for you to understand any other guidelines, right? Okay, so this is one wave. Now the other wave is what happened, and you can see what's on the screen. So it's COVID. Okay, I was one of those who were quite skeptical about e-learning, distance learning, online learning. Although my late husband was an instructional designer and technologist, and when he was in America, he was actually working at the University of Pittsburgh Center for Distance Learning. I wasn't very open to the idea of teaching languages online or via the internet. But I was not an anti distance learning either. Okay, so I did teach, and I have my own MOOC Arabic linguistics class and all. However, I still believe that the teacher is the agent for language education. Okay. However, when COVID came in, and COVID just sent its wave to us just like that, everybody, whether or not he or she is a believer in the effectiveness of language, in the plausibility of teaching languages via distance learning through remote, through e-learning and all, whether or not we believed in it, whether or not we liked it, we are forced into adopting e-learning, distance learning. Okay, and this is the result. Students are not with us. They are learning from their homes. They are learning from their rooms in the colleges. They cannot be with us. Okay, right. So is language education impacted by this COVID pandemic? Oh yes, it is impacted. Now I'm just reading to you what was published in the language trends by BBC. Okay, language teaching was suspended at 1 in 5 primary schools in January 2021 due to COVID-19. Okay, we have time lost to language learning for a lot of people, for many peoples. All right, we have significant decline in international activities, okay, involving mobility, inbound or outbound mobility. I was lucky. I mean, just before the COVID, I won a scholarship to teach Arabic in Turkey, and I quickly grabbed that opportunity. I said, no, I must go now because I do not know what's going to happen next. And I was very fortunate. I went there for like 10 days, trained some teachers in Arabic language pedagogy, and I came back, and a few months after that, it was COVID. So those who did not take the opportunity to go early, so they are now they have not used up the opportunity until now because of the close down, right? So of course this affects international movement. For example, there are some students who have to spend like 1 semester abroad in the country of the target language, where this was all not possible anymore. Okay, and however, in 2021, 98% of teachers were much better prepared for online teaching compared to 2020. Now, I'm one of those, okay? I remember that during the early part of the COVID pandemic, we were all like grappling with Microsoft Teams, with WebEx, with Google Meet and all those, right? And Zoom. Before that, we only knew Skype. Now we have to explore all kinds of conferencing platforms, right? And the good news also is that there is increase in resourcing and opportunities for online language-specific continuing professional development for teachers to improve their skills and knowledge. And this is also true for academics, where there is increase in research funding for such matters, right? Okay. Now, when it comes to Arabic, okay, Arabic, just like its sisters from other languages, okay, we are also affected. Not just English, Arabic is also affected. Okay, we also succumb to time loss. We also have issues with our mobility, right? We also have issues with our teachers practically grappling with how to teach online. Okay, so now putting the technology aside, okay, let's look at the first challenge, which was about the proficiency movement. Okay, now Arabic, we have this. This is not empirical, but this is what I often hear from other teachers, from colleagues. Okay, right. We have these challenges that Arabic is so difficult to teach. The kids are just not motivated to learn Arabic. They are too afraid to speak the language. I don't even understand what Sefer is all about. Okay, these teachers are complaining. I don't even understand what Sefer is all about. Curriculum developers are also complaining about this. Textbook writers are also complaining about this, right? Does that mean that the curriculum, objective, textbook, and test must change? Do we have to come out of our comfort zone? Okay. The students can't even engage in simple conversation. How do I get them to achieve B1 level? They can't even understand what they read, okay? They can't understand the text without me translating for them. I can teach grammar, the teacher would say, but I can't teach speaking because I myself can't speak Arabic. So you see where proficiency is going here, right? We are talking about teaching proficiency to students, and yet the teachers themselves may be lacking or may need much improvement in language proficiency. And I know this is not only true for Arabic, It is also true for some English teachers as well. All right. I don't need to be able to speak Arabic to teach it. I don't know what I'm able to do in Arabic. I don't know what my students are able to do in Arabic. The expectations are too different from what we are doing right now. Okay, this adoption of proficiency is causing some teachers to be uncomfortable because now they have to come out of the comfort zone. They have to learn new things, new ways of doing things. Right? I don't know how else to teach. Okay, shall I teach them to the test or to teach them to communicate? They didn't prepare for the class as instructed. I mean, they are always complaining about the students not preparing for the class as instructed. And then the second tsunami, which is the COVID, okay? Now, the students don't even learn the language in the face-to-face setting. How are they going to learn these skills online, okay? Interaction is more difficult in technology. The learners are tired listening to me for 2 hours. I find online teaching so tiring. It is hard enough to get them to participate in the classroom. And how do I get them to participate online? They don't want to turn on their cameras. I can't see them. Therefore, there is not much interaction. Okay. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing. Is this true, Puan Nurain?
Very, very true. Indeed, Dr. Kaseh. I think
Indeed,
it's not just for the language learning. I think for the arts as well. Yeah,
Yes.
because we do have online learning for the arts in IPG at this point of time, whereby all the students are learning from home.
Mhm.
Yeah, all right.
Yes.
So
Right.
back to you.
Okay. So apart from the proficiency aspects, this is true for everybody, right? This for all the educationists. Okay. Now we used to ask these questions. Is distance learning effective for language learning? Okay. Can the language teacher be replaced by technology? Okay. We used to ask these questions, right? Now these questions are obsolete. We can't ask them anymore because we have no choice already. We have no choice. Now we have to ask the right questions now. What should we ask? Number one, this is a very good question that we must ask ourselves. Has our face-to-face teaching been effective for developing Arabic proficiency? Before we even talk about online teaching, we should ask ourselves. When we were in the traditional classroom, has our teaching been effective? I suspect, now this is just what I suspect, okay? I suspect teachers language teachers who were already good and skilled at developing language proficiency in the traditional face-to-face classrooms will be able to transfer these skills to online teaching. However, teachers who were not yet skilled in developing language proficiency in the traditional face-to-face classroom may have a lot of difficulty transferring these skills to the online setting. This is my suspicion, right? So if you're asking, do you teach well online? Okay, ask yourself, did I teach well when I was doing in the face-to-face? What I mean by teaching well is, did my teaching lead to increasing the language skill of students? Okay. The other question that we should be asking ourselves is, how can we design remote learning and assessment to be as effective or perhaps even more effective than face-to-face teaching in developing language proficiency? Okay. Now, for this to happen, how should we redefine the roles of the Arabic instructor and the roles of technology in the language learning experience? Right? For one, I am not. I don't confine myself to technological tools. Right? Technological tools, their role is to assist us. However, I believe in instructional design. I believe that any language experience any language education experience that we want to give our students must be designed. Okay, right now what is happening is we jump into e-learning, we jump into remote learning, we jump into teaching, we jump into distance education as a response to a crisis. It is an emergency jump into the matter. However, perhaps in the beginning that was fine, but as we go along, we have to accept that this is our new norms. And when we accept that this is a new norm, we need to redesign the curriculum, redesign the whole educational experience. All right. I have more questions to ask. Okay. Now, now there's one thing particular about Arabic. Okay, before I go back to that, okay, the slide. Okay, now Arabic is spoken by about 422 million native speakers. Okay, now this does not include learners of Arabic. This I'm talking about the number of native speakers. Okay, and it is spoken in at least 22 countries, including Israel, which is a country in which Arabic is one of the official languages alongside Hebrew. Arabic, if we look at the American Foreign Service Institute in America, according to the language difficulty ranking, okay, for the difficulty for English speakers, okay, not for Malays, if difficulty of Arabic for English speakers, Arabic comes in category 4, which is the hardest, considered the super hard language. It's alongside Korean, alongside Japanese, okay? So Arabic, you need about 22,000 hours to acquire professional proficiency. 22,000 hours to acquire professional proficiency in Arabic, right? And Arabic is also characterized by classical Arabic, modern standard Arabic, and dialect. So we have a variety of Arabic there. Arabic is also characterized by diglossia. What does that mean? It means that when Puan Norain, if you go to Egypt, have you been to Egypt, by the way?
No, I haven't. In fact, lost.
You should. It's a beautiful country. Okay. So if you go to Egypt, you will not hear people on the street speaking modern standard Arabic. That doesn't happen. What you will hear is the Egyptian dialect. The same is true for Morocco. Okay. Okay, you go to Morocco, no baby who is born in Morocco will hear modern standard Arabic spoken to him. The baby will hear Moroccan dialect. So we have diglossia. Right. So now Arabic, okay, in terms of linguistic complexity, if I were to compare Arabic to English, right? Arabic for sure belongs to a different level of difficulty. All right. So we have phonemic coding as usual. When we learned languages, we have phonemic coding, morphology, morphophonemic, vocabulary, syntax, extended text, semantic inferences. Okay. So in all languages, we have to be able to go through all these stages to be able to process all these linguistic stages in order for us to know a language, to be able to receive, to understand, and to be able to produce in the language, right? However, the complexity of morphology, especially for Arabic, is very different from English or Malay. Okay, I will take for example. Okay, right. Okay, do you see number 1, 2, 3 on my screen? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to ask,
Very clear.
I'd like to
Very
ask
clear.
one. Can you read number 1?
Oh, I read it.
That's
Oh.
English. That's English. That's not Arabic.
In
That's
English.
English.
I don't know when I'm doing it right, not. Okay, the one in red, right? No. Mm. Okay, not sure. So I must be doing very poorly. But out of there, I don't know how many more hours do I need to go through since you need to have 22,000 hours to really learn perfect Arabic.
Okay, no, don't worry about that. Okay, it wasn't mean to scare. I didn't mean to scare anybody. It's just that okay. What happened is in the sentences number 1, 2, and 3 is I have omitted all vowels.
Okay.
Okay, it's English. I assure you, it's English. I have omitted all vowels. Okay, I only leave in the sentences the consonants. Okay, so number 1 is the sun is shining.
Ooh, interesting. Oh my goodness. All
Okay.
right. Okay.
Uh, number 2, okay, I made a mistake. It should be their son is sick.
Yes.
It's the EIR. Okay, it should be R. Their son is sick. So this is what happens when you leave out the vowels. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, is this part of Arabic? I was like, oh my goodness.
Okay, so the first was SUN son. The second is SON son. The third one is her son. Her
Hasib.
sin. SIN. Her sin is killing her.
All right. Hasib is killing
Okay,
her. All right.
right. So right. So you were like completely lost, right? When you were trying to
Yeah.
read them without the vowels.
Yes. Totally lost. And I was thinking this is some kind of new language. Because normally when we read Arabic is when you recite the Quran for me, being a Muslim. So I think, am I reading right?
Yeah.
No, something like that. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, sure. So this is what the students are feeling when they learn Arabic. This is a big pain point for them, right? So because we don't have the lexical diacritics there. Okay, right. For example, if I put the letter ba and ra, okay, ba and ra, so I can read it as bir, which means kindness. I can read it as bur, which means what do you call bijirin? What do you call it
Uh,
in English? Bijirin?
uh, Bijirin.
Uh,
Maybe anything.
seed, something.
Seed,
Yeah,
seed,
yeah,
seed,
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 something, right?
perhaps. Seed. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you call bar? Bar is land. Bar is land. Okay.
Land.
Barra is to do kind. So you see, if you get the lexical diacritic wrong, you get the meaning wrong. Okay.
All right.
Right. And then that is only the lexical diacritic, which is from the beginning of the word to the one before the last word, the last letter, sorry. And then we also have changes in diacritic at the grammatical case ending. So depending on whether you are the object or you are the agent of the sentence of a verb, okay? So that will all change. You can say Allah, Allahi, Allahu, ha, he, who, depending on the position of that word, the category, the syntactical category of that word in a sentence, right? And then we also have because Arabic is a Semitic language, and being a Semitic language, it is based on the root system, and each root will experience a lot of can go through a lot of derivations and inflections. They accept the derivational and inflectional morphologies. So, for example, I have the first four words is akrama. Alif, kaf, ra, mim. It's the same one. Hamzah, kaf, ra, mim, hamzah, kaf, but then they're all different. It can be akrama, which is a past tense. It can be ukrimu, which is a present tense. It can be akrim, which is imperative. It can be ikram, akrimu, ikrim. So there are many changes that can happen. So when a student is faced with a text, for example, without these diacritic marks, without the vowels, what they feel is like they are going through a forest, a very thick forest, like the moss forest in Cameron Highlands. All right. So this is one of the pain points in Arabic, which is why it is categorized in the fourth group of languages in terms of language difficulty. All right. So what do I have now? Okay. So I go back to the asking the right questions. So one of the things that we really need to ask ourselves while we have the opportunity to redesign our education is how can we ease the pain points of learning Arabic? I showed you only one, all right? Okay. How can we engage students in the learning activities? How can we get them to speak online or offline? Okay. How can we keep the learners motivated? Okay. These are the questions that we should be asking ourselves now. All right. Fine. So, when teachers are always complaining, we are always experiencing students' refusal to speak Arabic. In fact, some of them run away from the dictionaries. They run away from Arabic text. If they have a choice between reading Al-Ghazali's Ihya Ulumuddin, Al-Ghazali's Magnum Corpus in Arabic, or reading it in Indonesia, in the Indonesian language, they will definitely choose the Indonesian language. Okay? Okay. Why? So these are some indicators that these students have actually not developed the language proficiency. Okay. Now, when it comes to speaking, why do they not speak? Okay. It's either if they feel that they just can't do it. I want to be good in Arabic, but I just don't know how to. Okay, they don't know how to. They have issues with motivation. They fear of being scolded if they make mistakes. This is the number one issue, or the number one factor as to why students do not want to speak Arabic when they learn Arabic. Okay, they have linguistic diffidence. Okay, or they fear that their classmates will laugh at them if they were to make mistakes. Right? They have a lot of fear. They have a lot of fear of making mistakes and feeling humiliated if they were to make mistakes in the classroom. So, what we see here is actually language learning is just not a matter of input and output, right? We say that for language learning to occur, there must be input. This is what they hear, what they read in the language, and then that should transform to, they should be processed those things, and then we need to have output where students get to speak and students get to write, right? But that is not all, because there are many intangible. Where was that from? Oh, my phone. Sorry, it was my series. Okay, so there are many intangible psychological variables at play. All right. For example, the ones that I showed, the pictures that I showed just now, we have anxiety coming in. We have willingness to communicate or unwillingness to communicate coming in. We have linguistic confidence or linguistic diffidence. We have the issue of a learner's ability to practice good self-efficacy in learning, to practice self-regulation. We have issue of, there are different kinds of multiple intelligence. We also have issue of IQ. Now with all the high order thinking and all, so we have issues with this, okay? All these factors come into play. We have personality types. Students have individual differences with regards to personality type. Aptitude, their ability to decipher language codes, for example. We have the issue of motivation, demotivation, amotivation, issues of different learning styles at play. Now, all these intangible psychological variables are not about the language per se, but they are all about the human agent, the learner themselves. Okay, the learner himself, right? So, which is why humanizing language education, be it offline or online, need to seriously take into account these psychological variables. Okay, so who are the human agents in language education? Of course, first would be the learners themselves, the teachers, and also the interlocutors or the audience, right? And they all play a role in the success and failure of language education. All right. Which is why when we design or redesign our curriculum for online learning, okay, we need to go beyond ADI. I know everybody is familiar with ADI. There's no problem with ADI. ADI is like you first analyze what they need, okay, and you develop and you design, then you develop, and then you implement your curriculum, and then you evaluate your curriculum. Now, deeper than ADI, okay, ADI tends to be very structural, okay, but deeper than ADI, we need to go to ADAM. Okay, we need to go to Adam. Why Adam? Okay, now do you see the picture, the green picture here? Can you see it, Adam?
Adam, yes, I can see Adam, yes, very clear, but
Okay.
there's no picture there. Okay, Adam, yes.
Do you see the writing above the word Adam?
Yes, very clear.
Yeah. Do you know what language that is?
No idea.
Hebrew.
It's in Hebrew.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is
yeah, that's
Hebrew.
right. Yeah, because the reading, you have you're proficient in Hebrew, so for some biblical reading in your.
Yeah, I learned 2 years of Hebrew when I was in Morocco. Right.
Oh yeah, okay, this is Hebrew. Okay, very enlightening indeed.
Yeah, so Adam, okay, it's also like Arabic, it's right from right to left, okay. So Adam, I didn't know. I thought Adam was always a name. It was always a name to me, you know. Now when I learned biblical Hebrew and we read the Torah, we read the Old Testament in Hebrew,
Yes.
I realized that actually Adam means man, man or mankind. All right. So of all the psychological variables that we looked at just now, so I decided to put them in Adam. So what is Adam? So A stands for aptitude, anxiety, okay, attitude, all right. D, self-determination, self-directed. There is this human need to be self-determined and to be self-directed, all right. If our learners are not self-directed, then we must question why that happens. Okay, there is this human need that they want to be able to realize self-actualization, okay, to achieve certain things, all right. There is this human need for motivation and multiple intelligence. Now all these are some of the human variables that we need to take account when we design any curriculum for language online, okay, online or offline, doesn't matter, all right. So for example, why students are not motivated to be in the English classroom or Arabic classroom, okay? Why do they not participate in the learning process? Because they're so afraid of making mistakes. They're so afraid of making mistakes in front of the teacher, in front of their colleagues, in front of the native speakers, for example, okay? But the remedy for that is very, very easy. Very easy. All I tell my students is, see, I don't tell them like it's okay to make mistakes here. I don't tell them that. Okay. I tell them this is where we make mistakes. Your mistakes are safe with me. This is where we make mistakes. So this classroom is a safe place for them to practice with the language to practice the language that they are learning without being fearful of making mistakes. And this magic phrase works wonders. I will have students who just can't stop talking until another classmate will have to tell them, just okay, enough, uskut, you get it, enough. All right, I want to talk now. Okay, so because they are so excited to speak, why? Because they know it is okay. It's not just okay for them to make mistakes. This is where they are going to make mistakes, so that they will learn from their mistakes. Right. So basically, I'm actually also repeating what I think Prof. Zuraida yesterday was saying. Okay, just let them talk. And if they make mistake, that is okay. That is perfectly all right for them to make mistakes. Okay, right. Now, the Sefer is just a roadmap. The Sefer is just a roadmap. Okay, it is not really standards, but it's more of a roadmap. tells you, the teacher, and it tells you, the learner, okay, where or the directions that you can go to, okay. So what the SEPHR does is, well, how do we use the SEPHR guideline? How do we use it, okay? The SEPHR guideline should guide the learners and also the teachers. Say, where do you want to go, okay? What do you have to be able? What do you have to be able to do to show that you are there? Okay. So I'm showing this to show this backward design of curriculum. The curriculum has to work backwards. Okay. This is where I want to go. This is what I should be able to do. These are what I should be able to do in the language. Okay. And therefore, I need to know, and you need to know, the teachers and the learners need to know whether or not you are getting there. So that is where the assessment comes in. All right. So that is where the assessment comes in. So I always begin with the type or the level of proficiency that I want and the assessment that I want to do, right? So we know, for example, that by the end of the semester, for example, the student should be able to describe himself, to describe his home, to describe the familiar things around him for him to be at a certain level, all right? So we know his ability to describe himself, to describe his surroundings and matters that of concern, of immediate relevance to him, is need to be assessed. Okay, now that we know that has to be assessed, we work backwards again. Okay, we work backwards again. So, given your conditions, okay, given the learner's conditions, what are the learner's conditions? Okay, the learner's conditions may include his personality type, his learning style, his aptitude for language. Okay, some people may ask, what is the aptitude for language? I have never seen an aptitude test I've never taken an aptitude test, but basically, some people just can just learn a language in a very easy manner, while some others have to struggle more. Okay, so that is also your condition. Just like some people can learn maths easily, and some people have to struggle more in order to be able to do mathematics. Okay, so the same is for language. So we have such thing as language aptitude. Okay, given your condition, given that you do get anxious very easily, given that your motivation, your motives for learning the language is such and such and such. Okay, what support do you need to get there? What resources do you need to get where you want it to go? Okay, and if you find obstacles, do we not find obstacles in our language learning? We do a lot of it, right? Okay. Do we not find obstacles? We do. But what happened? How do we overcome these obstacles? Okay. What is next? Okay. So given these conditions that the number one, number two, number three, okay, right? That I'm talking about are where the human aspect of a language learner comes in. The human aspect of the language teacher comes in, right? Okay. And this is also where support is needed. So the human support is needed, right? Such as what? Human support can come in various forms. Encouragement, feedback. Apart from feedback, we have feed forward. How do you move next? Okay. How do we get over your difficulty in understanding a particular grammatical concept? Okay, we cannot do these things. We cannot give feedback or feed forward unless we do progressive monitoring through formative assessments. All right. So that is why we need to have continuous formative assessment in language learning. All right. So I suggest that any institution working on revamping their language curriculum to adopt this backward curriculum design. Okay. Now, so we talk about assessment for learning. Okay, we talk about assessment for learning, right? What is assessment for learning? Okay, Well, we use assessment in order to promote learning. We use assessment in order to guide learning. And we use assessment in order to push students to learn more and do better. Okay. Now, when it comes to language skills, okay, when it comes to language skills, I believe that only having 2 assignments or 2 formative assessments throughout a semester may not be enough. Okay. When it comes to language skills, the learners will progress from one stage to another, from one level to another, from one competence to another. Okay, so they need frequent assessment and progress monitoring. This is what I got from my supervisor. He happened to my supervisor is Professor Datuk Muhammad Sari Nordin from IUM here, and he happened to talk about the same thing about humanizing assessment 2 days ago. So I had the privilege of listening to him. So that his lecture came very timely for me, right? So he was talking about frequent assessment and progress monitoring, weekly basis, perhaps bi-weekly basis. For example, when I was doing my at one point of time, I was teaching spoken Arabic, okay, spoken Arabic, or in other words, conversational Arabic. So what happened was every week, I evaluated my student and see how they progress from one week to another, right? So that evaluation goes into the grade. Okay. When we talk about assessment for learning, we have to make it explicitly clear to the students that this assessment is for them, not for you. It's not like I need your grade. I need your grade. No, I don't need. The teacher doesn't need their grade. It is them. It is them. The better they do their assessment, the more they learn. The less importance they give to the assessment, the less they invest, is the less they will learn. We have to make it very clear to them how the assessment is how assessment is relevant to them. Okay, we need to spell out clearly our expectations, clear instruction, and communicate the assessment rubric to our students so that they know what is the best performance. If we have a model, then give the model. And we have to discuss resources, support, models, demonstration, and continuous follow-up support. Okay, throughout while they were doing it. So they might find obstacles, they might have difficulties, so we support them. Okay, not all the students will reach out to you. We have to ask. We have to ask them. Okay, how do we ask them since we are online? Okay, we suggest the use of a hallway. I believe that all of you have been practicing this, but you might have WhatsApp or Telegram. Okay, so we make good use of this. All right. So we make it fun. We allow creativity. We give feedback and feed forward. All right. Now, if I may share an online program that we have done in Leipzig. Okay. All right. Let me see what comes out on YouTube. Do you see what? Can you see my screen now? It has. Okay, this one. Okay. Right. So this is an online program, comprehensive Arabic learning program from A1 to B2. Okay, that has been developed by Professor Eckhard Schulz at the University of Leipzig, and I am his co-author. Right. So we have this online program, and I'm going to show you some things about how to. This is just a platform, but how do we humanize this platform? Okay. And I mentioned just now that there are some pain points in Arabic, right? So we have some pain points in Arabic, for example. Okay. We have some pain. Okay, let me change the language. Why is this in Germany? Okay. Okay, please pardon me for a while. I need to change this to the Malay or English. Oh, okay. Puan Ai, how much time do I have now? Still have
Actually,
time?
we still have quite a bit of time. Actually, now we are only into the first hour. Yeah, I mean, we have another hour to go.
Okay.
Right.
Right. So I was mentioning to you about the difficulty of Arabic text without vowels, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how we capitalize on the machine. Okay. So which teacher would want to read repeatedly to the student? You don't have the time for that. You don't have the time for that, for the students to read repeatedly to the student. Okay? But with this kind of program, okay, we have about 8,000 audio files in this program. In Germany, it takes 2 years to complete the whole program. Okay, all right, 2 years. It's a 800-page book, but it's from A1 to B2. Okay, and the moment they finish this course, they are able to become written translators. Uh, right? Okay.
Will you be able to speak like a native, doctor?
They will be able to speak. They will be able to speak, but they may not be able to do live interpreting. Okay, but they can do written translation. Okay, so for example, okay,
بين
can you hear?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So basically, I don't have to do this
تاجر
for them.
تجار
The teacher doesn't have to do this for them, right? Because they can prepare this at home. For we have about 2,000 vocabulary. Okay, they can prepare all this at home. Okay, nice. Let's move on to, for example, okay. I want to go to the text. Okay, so in Germany, in Europe, the trend is when you teach Arabic, you never, never, never give them the diacritic marks from the beginning. From the beginning, they never see. They only know about the. They know about the vowels, but they don't really see it in their text. So they never see it in their text. So what happens is the students will have to learn to listen to this text, the audio text at home. They have to listen to the audio text at home and mark the text
الاستقبال في
themselves,
المطار.
so they can listen as many times as
وصلت
they like.
مريم أمس الجمعة. ذهبت بالتاكسي إلى المطار وقلت عندما خرجت من المخرج الخاص بالجمارك ودخلت القاعة الرئيسية: أهلا وسهلا، الحمد لله على السلامة.
Right. So what happens is the students can listen and repeat and mark their own until they are very familiar with the vowels.
This is
Right.
That's kind of learning program, doctor.
Let me put it this way. It is used with the teacher in the classroom, but the program enables them to learn at home,
Okay.
to do a lot of work at home in preparation for their meeting with the teacher. So when they are in the classroom, the teacher is free to engage the students in different activities that allows them to practice what they have learned at home.
Very interesting.
Yes, it is very interesting. Okay, it is very interesting. So with this kind of system allows the teacher to focus on whether or not the students was learning, whether or not they had difficulties, where did they have the difficulties, okay, and how do they overcome the difficulties. And now they can practice speaking with the teacher in the classroom. It frees them up to practice conversation in the classroom. So the teacher can focus on the parts that the program cannot do, because the program has taken care of a lot of things, including syntax, making sentences and all. Because we have, for example, okay, so we also have dialects in the language. Okay, so they have to change. For example, you have to transform a sentence into past tense, for example, or answer as a particular question. And many of the exercises actually have answers that they can check. So what we recommend, we also have tests, lots of tests in this program. So what we recommend is that the students do the test repeatedly until they get them all right. Until they get them all right. They don't have to wait for the teacher to give them the test because the tests are all embedded into the program. Okay, and this is you can also do it self-learning, but probably you will need a little bit of tutoring. Maybe when you have a problem not understanding something, then probably you can just call out for a tutor. That's all. Okay. And since the COVID, this thing is a hit in Germany, in Europe, it's a hit. Because suddenly everybody was confined in their homes, couldn't go to class, and all the universities were asking to subscribe to this program. Okay. And the program is also there because I didn't show you what do you see now? Okay, I see my program still. So I didn't show you just now how when you answer the test, the self-testing or the practices exercises, when some exercises can be auto-corrected. So when you answer it correctly, then there'll be a smile emoticon coming up. Okay. And until you get it right, you get every single diacritic right, every single letter right, you can keep doing it. Now, this is one of the things. Now, keep doing it. Repetition. Okay. I'm not talking about rote repetition. I'm not talking about rote memorization. Okay. Repetition is a very important concept in learning language. Okay, language learning, which is why I always use, for example, creative dramatics, in my classroom. Why? Because when I do creative dramatics, when I do readers theatre, the students have to repeat to perform. But in order to, while they are repeating to perform, they somehow manage to understand the text. You see? Because what happens is that, like when you go when you go into the forest, like just now, when reading a text, it's like going into the forest, and you feel like completely lost. You don't want to go in there again. Yes or no? You don't want to go in there again. But when we do readers theatre, we force them to go there again, to repeat, and they will tell me, like, each time I read it, I understand more. Each time I read it again, I understand more. So repetition is very important. So this is one of the key skills in developing language skill that teachers need to know. Allow their students to make mistakes. Allow your students to repeat. And technology have made this very easy for us. Okay. Now, there's another thing that about developing language skill that we need to know, especially when it comes to speaking. Okay, I wanted to show you a video, but I think the student has removed it from her YouTube. Okay, when I teach speaking, when I teach speaking skill, the student gets a little time to prepare, but when they do their first presentation, what we do as a whole class is to help him or her notice where he or she can improve. Okay, in terms of language, probably she didn't use the right vocabulary, or probably he or she did not use the right sentence. There is a lot of grammatical errors in the sentence that we couldn't understand the sentence. So we help the student make her sentence comprehensible. So that student will not do it one time. It is not a one-time performance. I allow the students to repeat the performance many times until he gets comfortable with the language and with what he wants to express. Usually, probably, like, for example, in the first attempt, the student will take about 3 minutes to talk about, for example, Arab Spring. Okay, it takes 3 minutes, and as we allow the student to repeat, then he or she can express better, more precisely, more grammatically accurate in a shorter time. Okay, so this is my experience with language teaching. What I'm saying here is that we should allow for error correction. We should allow for the students to improve their performance. We should allow the students to work keep working until he reaches a certain level of acceptability, or linguistically acceptable sentences or discourse. Okay, so giving them the second chance, third chance, fourth chance with some guidance, they will want to do their best. Okay, they
Very
will
true,
want to
doctor. Very true,
yeah,
doctor. In other words, they'll be gaining confidence in the process of learning. That is
yeah,
the reason why they are getting very comfortable in speaking the language.
yes,
Like you
yes,
said. Yeah.
yes, yes. But if you just ask them to do it one time, no, they haven't even got over their fear.
Yeah. Very true.
Okay, so we
Continue.
have to
Okay.
allow that time for
Yeah.
repeated practice.
Okay, good. Back to you, doctor.
And this applies to, okay, now I am going to share with you my slides again. Okay. Uh, is my slide on or not?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I share
Yeah,
again.
it's coming
It's
on.
on? It's coming on? Oh, good, good, good. Okay, it's coming on. It's coming on. I will share. So I showed you my MSA, my
Yes, it's
Modern
on.
Standard Arabic from Leipzig. Okay, so I
It's
showed you
on.
this. It's on, eh?
Yes,
Very
it's
nice.
on.
Thank you. Okay, now Canva, uh, at UKM, we are very particular about Arabic. Although we are University Kebangsaan Malaysia, National University, but we want our students to be good in Arabic, okay? So we even have Arabic for our postgraduate students in the Faculty of Islamic Studies. Okay? Not all of them come with good Arabic, okay? Each year we find that, for example, out of 100 students, 20% are independent users of Arabic, 80% are not. Okay, so this is the baseline data that we get. Okay, because every year we conduct tests. Okay, so I designed courses, remedial Arabic courses for them long time ago, like more than 10 years ago, and then they said the courses take us too long. We don't want to come every week for the class because it's not a required class, for example. Okay, so I changed. So that was a challenge. So I changed that course into a camp, and we called it the Camp Bahasa Arab Academic. Okay, so and the face-to-face camp, when we did the face-to-face camp, so I designed the camp to include to cover the language skills that are needed for postgraduate studies. All right, so we have 5 modules in the camp, and we already won gold medal in the Kenovasi for this camp. Okay, way back. And then when COVID came in 2020, we were challenged once again to turn this camp into an e-camp with new norms. Okay, we were debating, should we wait until COVID is over or should we just go on? I said, why not? And so my friends, my colleagues and I, we decided, why not we just do it and we take the challenge to conduct the camp in new norms, okay, in e-form, right? So we won recently we won more gold medals. It was best for the best category for higher education at the ITEL last year, and just I think last month we won another medal for this. Okay, so I am, as I told you, I'm very particular. I don't just jump in. Okay, I don't believe in just jumping into electronic learning in response to crisis. But we needed a design. So for when we decided to turn the camp into an electronic camp, into a distant learning camp, we put down several principles. Okay, right. First, we compared. Okay, we compared what is the difference, for example, between a face-to-face camp and what differences will be. What are the differences that will be there when we turn it into an electronic camp? Okay, and then we also laid down some principles that we want to be happening. Okay, first, number one, of course, it has to be electronic. Okay, so what does that mean? When it is electronic, okay, it means that we can capitalize. We can capitalize on a lot of digital tools that are available in the internet. Okay, in the World Wide Web or in the telephone apps. Okay, so we decided to capitalize on as many digital tools as possible that will help our students in learning Arabic. Okay, so that relates to empowerment as well. Okay, because in this camp, the students will be empowered not only with the skills of learning, but also with the tools for learning, right? Number two, we know that online learning can be very lonely. Okay, it can be very lonely because you are alone at home. In the camp, we felt like it's like we call it so Maria. It was like a party. The physical camps that they are like, we can sing, we can move from one station to another. Okay, but we want to maintain that merry feeling. That how do I say this? Apa rasa meriah itu kan? That kind of feeling, that kind of ambience in the camp. So we decided that there must be a lot of connection in the camp. All right. And we decided that there must be a lot of engagement. Just like the physical camp, we say now we want more. We want more engagement with language, whether input or output, and mostly output. Okay. So we decided all these things on these principles. Okay. And of course, like I said just now, is the face-to-face and online camp will be different, because in the face-to-face we have a lot of movement, physical movement. In the online camp we have to have less movement. Okay, how do we do less movement? Okay, but we can have more language engagement. Why? Because we spend less time moving physically. So we created more activities. We spent more time in certain activities for language engagement. Okay, we have more digital empowerment. Okay, in the physical camp, they can't be carrying around their laptops. They can only use their handphones. Okay, but in a online camp, they can use more digital tools. Okay, and like I said, connection is very important. Social presence is very important. So we must have less isolation and more connection. So these are the principles that we laid down before we redesign the camp. Okay, and just now I talked about being merry in the camp, have fun in the camp. Okay, now that is I call that affective presence. Okay, that is part of affective presence. AFFECTIVE. What is affective presence? Remember we talked about the psychological variables, the psychological factors. Okay, so when we design a camp, this affective presence must be there. Okay, the teacher must be there smiling with the student. The facilitator must not be picking on the mistakes of the students, but help him build a better language production, for example. Okay, so we talk about how to sustain the learners, how to sustain the learner motivation. It's like 3-day camp from morning to the evening. That is not easy, but we did it anyway. Okay, and we have about, for example, we have like 40% of the camp is about academic speaking. Okay, academic speaking for 40%. 20% is about search skills for academic resources, and we have reading, we have typing, we have translation in the camp, and all. These are some of the activities that we did. Okay, you don't see much, but we actually have about more than 30 activities happening in the camp, right? Yeah, including readers theatre, right? Okay. And we talk about more connection and less isolation. So what has to happen in that camp? Okay, so there must be connection with the camp members. There are certain activities where the learners will connect with the camp members. There are activities where the learners will connect with their group members. Okay, activities in which the learners will connect with their facilitator, with the learning materials and resources, with digital softwares and apps. So there is a lot of connection, not only with human beings, but also with materials and resources. Okay, for example, songs. For example, reading text. Okay, right. And these are some of the digital tools that we embedded into the camp. Okay, so we had many meetings. We had many meetings to categorize the types of tasks that we do. So some of the tasks had to be done before the camp, like 2 weeks before the camp. We have to give out the tasks so that the students come in more prepared. Okay, some of the tasks were done during the camp, but mainly we want to use the camp, the time in the camp to give to allow students to perform in front of us, to give them feedback and to give them feed forward. Okay, and then we do post-camp assignments as well. A few of them, maybe one or two as post-camp assignments, so that they to reinforce what they have been acquiring throughout the camp. Okay, so that was about our camp. Okay, so that was about our camp. Basically, when we talk about online learning or online teaching, like I said, okay, in terms of developing language skills, the teacher has to have the skills to develop language skill, not just to impart knowledge. How do we develop language skill? By creating input, by providing students the opportunity to create output, to create with the language, to use the language without the fear of making mistakes, by allowing the students to improve on their performance. Okay, so these are all the skills that are needed, whether in developing speaking or listening or writing. Okay, or what was the other one? Writing, speaking, listening, reading. Okay, reading is not easy. Okay, in Arabic. Okay, so according to Gax, Kotler, and Apasova, this is a 2020 article. Okay, when we transfer the skills, the language teaching skills from the offline to the online situation, it is not just about language pedagogy anymore. It is more about the method of managing the online, the technological part of it. Okay, and if you are already a good language teacher in the offline setting, I can assure you, you can do better in the online setting. Okay, the only things that you need to take into account when when teaching language in online setting is about being you as a teacher, being visible, being present, and also being authentic with the students. You know, it's not that you are not a robot, you're not a machine, but you're a human being. You acknowledge their social presence, you acknowledge their affective presence, their affective needs. Okay, so you have to say hello, you have to come up, you can talk to them on the Telegram, say how are you today, we do that. Okay, right, and how's your progress with your assignment. Okay, so these are some things that we add to it, as just like when we meet them in the hallway in the university. Oh, okay, how are you, have you done your assignment, do you need any help? It's just the same, it's just that for now we are doing it online. Okay, so my conclusion is okay. Did I miss something? Okay, I missed something before I conclude. Okay, I was going to share with you another initiative that we did. Okay, in terms of assessment. Okay, this is not formative assessment. Okay, there are many proficiency-based assessment of Arabic now in the world. Okay, we have TOEFL is English. Okay, so we have for Arabic we have Arabic language test. We have a Channel Arabi. I think it's based in Jordan. We have the American ones in America. We also have TOEFL.com, which is based in Germany. I took that test and I got C2. Okay, for all skills. Right now, UKM has also developed a computer-based competency test of Arabic in 2017. Okay, the red one. Okay, the red one here. So this is our very own homegrown Arabic competency test. It is computer based. We never had the paper and pencil version. We never had the paper and pencil version. We started straight out with the computer based, and it covers all 4 skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Okay, it covers all 4 skills, and it is done completely. All 4 are done completely on the computer. Okay, so that is one initiative that we did, and I was a project leader for that. We are still improving on it, and technological stuff, they always need improvement from time to time. Okay, so for right now, all the students in the Faculty of Islamic Studies UKM have to go through this test, and they will be awarded a certificate in their final year for their performance in the test. Okay, so my conclusion today is about emphasizing the importance of design or instructional design when we move into the online uh, teaching and learning mode. Okay, we must acknowledge our linguistic expectations, the linguistic nature of our language, the pain points that the students go through. Okay, we must acknowledge the metacognitive aspect of the human learner. Okay, how do we use the machine? How do we use the teachers to help learners explore how best to learn the language? Okay, we must acknowledge the affective presence of these learners. Okay, they have their motivation, they have their attitude, they have their need to achieve. Now, one of the reasons why students do get motivated in language learning, okay, one of the reasons, okay, I do not know whether this is true only for Arabic, but I believe it is true for all languages, because we know that demotivation is not uncommon in language learning. Okay, is when the learner does not feel that he or she is progressing in the language that he's learning. Okay, like it's like I've learned French for 5 years, and yet I can't speak to any. I have no confidence at all to speak to any French woman. When I read, I can understand what I read. The moment the learner feels that he's not progressing in the language that he has been learning, has been investing many hours in, then he will say, "Now, what's the point of my learning this?" So it becomes a motivation then. All right. So we must acknowledge the need of learners to interact with the teacher, to interact with friends. Okay. All right. To interact with the text. Okay. I can share with you, Ain, and my fellow friends, my fellow colleagues, uh, I do not know whether this happens in other languages, but this seems to happen in many Arabic classrooms that I see. The teacher comes in to the class, takes a text, read to the students, and translate the text for the students. And then the student writes the translation on top of each and every word. And then the student ignore the Arabic text, and when asked to explain the text, the student will read only the Malay translation of the text. Okay, so if that kind of teaching, which I do not term as a grammar translation method, that is definitely not grammar translation method. Okay, we know what grammar translation method can do. Okay, right. So if this kind of teaching goes on and on and on in the language classroom, what is actually happening is the teacher is actually denying the students from the opportunity to process the text, which explains why even after 5 or 6 or 7 or even 10 years of learning a particular language, the students are still not independent in comprehending the text that they are reading. Okay, so when the student does not feel that he's progressing, I don't know what I've been doing. I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this in that language. So why do I learn the language anymore? If I have the choice, I wouldn't want to learn it. Okay, so that's the affective presence. Okay, social presence is to ensure that the students connect with the teacher and connect with the language, connect with his classmates or colleagues. All right. And also there is the management part, which I didn't share with you today. How do we manage a language camp? That's what I showed you was only the design, the instructional design, but I have not showed you the management aspect of the camp. All right. So we need to move from andragogy or pedagogy. We need to go into heutagogy now, because the students are now self-determined. They have autonomy. They need to be more self-directed now that they're on their own at home. So what heutagogy of language means is that we have to build students' capabilities. Yeah? In their capacity as the learner agency, we have to help them acknowledge their self-efficacy and capability to learn language, to reflect on their learning, to manage their own learning, and to understand that language learning is not a linear process. They have to sometimes they have to go back into something, do this again, improve on this. Okay, so this is what I can share with you. There's some bibliography at the end of this. By the way, can I share this with you?
By all means, but of course, by all means, we have a few, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So on Thursday, on Hari Malaysia, Thursday, 16 September at 2:30 p.m., I am inviting all those who are interested in Arabic, okay, to join us in our first annual general meeting of Persatuan Bahasa dan Budaya Arab Malaysia. I am the chair of the Pro Tem Committee. We have registered this association with Ross, Registrar of Association of Societies in Malaysia, and we will be having our first AGM on Thursday, 2:30 on Google Meet. Okay, so you have our phone number here. Azman is our secretary. Okay, so this is my open invitation to all.
Thank you,
Okay,
Doctor.
all. I should stop sharing now.
All right.
Okay. Let me stop my sharing. Let me stop my sharing. Okay, stop. Done.
Thank you, Dr. Kaseh, for a very insightful and interactive section. Actually, in fact, we have a question
Uh-huh.
from our French lecturer in IPG-KBA,
Wow.
Mr. Azhar bin Abdul Wahab. This is what he wants to know. He wants to know, how do Malaysians perceive the Arabic language? First one. Actually, there are three questions in one. The second one, is it more linked to religion or to language?
Okay. Right.
Maybe you like to answer the first
Thank you.
part?
I can answer it. Okay. Thank you, Azhar. So he's a French teacher. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup for the question. I have forgotten my French. I had 3 courses of French in Morocco, so but I have forgotten it now. J'ai oublié tous les choses maintenant.
Oh my goodness. Oh. I don't understand at all.
I told him I've forgotten everything now. All right.
Over to
Okay,
you,
so
Doc.
how do Malaysians view Arabic? Okay, it depends. Okay, if they are Muslim, if they are Malay Muslims or Chinese Muslim or Indian Muslim or Kadazan Muslim, they might they view Arabic first and foremost as a religious language. Okay, as a spiritual language, I would say a spiritual language. Okay, and therefore many of the Muslims in Malaysia, okay, I'll just talk about Malaysia. All right, many of the Muslims in Malaysia want to identify themselves with Arabic. Okay, and they also want to learn Arabic because they want to understand the Quran. Okay, fine, no problem with that. Okay, however, if you ask them deeper, then they will keep telling you, okay, I've been learning Arabic for many years lah, but I still cannot speak it lah. You know, somehow there is something in them that they say this Arabic language is not just for spiritual purpose. I also want to be able to speak it. Okay, it is as any human language. You want to be able to speak the language that you learn. Okay, so I suspect. Was it Azhar? Is it Encik Azhar?
Yeah.
Mr. Azhar. Actually, as human beings, okay, as a language learner, we don't only learn a language for one motive. I have done a research on the motivational orientations of Arabic learners in Malaysia, and we found that people actually learn language, a particular language, for various reasons. Okay, I, for example, probably because Arabic is challenging for my thinking, because I like the sound of Arabic, because I want to be able to speak with Arab people. I want to have many Arab friends. Okay, I want to be able to understand the Quran. So the Quran or the ibadah or the salat is only one or two motives of the many motives why a person learns a language. And the more motives that learner has, the more committed he will be to learning the language. Actually, he can sustain better. He can sustain better. Of course, sustenance of motivation also goes back to the teacher. The teacher has a big role in maintaining motivation or lifting the motivation of learners. Okay. Sometimes what you see is people have the initial motivation to learn, But after many classes, they find I'm not progressing. I'm not progressing. So if the learner gets demotivated through the learning process, then I think the teacher has needs to learn more about how to maintain learner motivation, okay, by engaging them and by helping them sense their progress and develop their progress. Of course, develop their skills. So that is what I can answer, Mr. Azhar. Does that answer?
Yeah, a very clear session indeed, Dr. Kaseh. Actually, personally, when you're talking about learning a language, because it's reflective on us when we're reading, and it will be very, very, how do you say, more meaningful if we understand what we're reading. Yeah,
Mhm.
very true. And the last part of the question pertaining to the perceptions that affect learners' motivation in learning their language. How will the perception that if language is related to religion, will it affect the perception and the motivation to learn the language? Because we're talking about learning uh, Arabic. Yeah.
Uh, okay, Arabic is a human language. Arabic is a human language, okay? So just because Arabic is related to a
Yeah.
spiritual religion, just because Hebrew is related to Judaism or related to Christianity, okay, it doesn't mean that people do not have the motives to learn the language for other purposes. Okay, so what we find is that people learn the language for Arabic. I would say that for Arabic, no, some people learn it just for the sake that the language is so beautiful that they fall in love with the language when they hear it. Some people learn it because they have say, "Oops, the Arabs are rich. The Arabs are rich. I want to do business with them." Okay, I want to do business. When I grow up, I want to do business with these Arabs. I must learn some the Arabic language. So some people learn Arabic because Arabic threatens the security of some countries. Because not Arabic threatens, Arabs threaten the security of some countries. So that's pretty much American, British, okay, they encourage the learning of Arabic as a world language, but they also have that political motivation because languages like Korea, because of North Korea, okay,
Yeah.
languages like Arabic, these are among the 5 critical languages critical to the security of America, for example. So the
And yet,
learning of these languages are encouraged. Okay.
and yet these questions, these languages are the most difficult to learn, as we have said
Yes,
earlier in the
yes, they are in
presentation.
the group 4, the most difficult to
Yes,
learn,
the most
but they
difficult.
take the effort to learn. And
Yeah.
mind you, the American diplomats, when they learn Arabic, oh my God, they are super good. They
But
are
it's
super.
22,000 hours, Doctor. I think we have to
Okay.
spend
Now
time for
that
that.
that number, Puan Ain, that
Yeah.
number may be more or may be less depending on the aptitude of the learner.
Ah, interesting.
Right.
Yeah. All
Yes.
right.
So because the list that I got was not complete, but there was another publication which I couldn't find. So we will depend. Okay, if the learner has a very high aptitude for learning languages, he will take less time. If the
Yeah.
learner has lower aptitude, he may take a little bit more time.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. So let's be
Yes.
encouraged. Let's encourage ourselves to learn to take up the Arabic language.
But
Yeah.
that is for
Excellent one.
reaching the professional level. Professional
Yeah.
level means that you want to become an interpreter, you want to work in the Arab world, okay? But
Yeah.
not all of us have to reach that level.
Yeah.
Not all
Yeah.
of us.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kaseh. It seems that we have come to the end of today's session. Yeah. And we'd like to thank you again, Dr. Kaseh, for
Yep.
sharing with us on the importance of instructional design and some innovations and ideas on how to manage and implement effective presence perspective in the humanistic approach to achieve language proficiency. Many ideas we're bringing home today, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, bearing in mind that proficiency in the language can be obtained by only practicing language, making without fear of making mistakes. More connection, less isolation for online learning. And I'm very sure these ideas can be incorporated in learning other languages as well. And this concludes our webinar for today. Thank you all for attending, and we hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. And first and foremost, I would like to thank the Educational Technology Division, the Ministry of Education, Malaysia, for the platform that we're using for today, and the lovely repertoires who are helping us out behind the scenes. Please join us again for our next upcoming webinar, which will be held this coming Tuesday, 14th of September, and we will be going live at 3 p.m. Malaysian time. Lock the date, everyone. Till then, goodbye from Malaysia.